Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. I have with me today, I have Raquel Marshall. She's written these books. This one is called All That Is Progressing to the Fifth Dimension. And there's actually two other books that accompany this. She was really nice enough to send them to me. I guess she saw my shows with Indigo Angel. And this one is the All That Is Journal, where you can accompany your journey to, accessing the fifth dimension in it and our ascension to the fifth dimension in it. And then she also wrote the book called A Light Worker's The Voice of an Angel, Yeshua ben Yosef, a light worker's journal about Jesus. And yeah, she's going to tell us about these books today and like why she wrote them and all that stuff. And I'm really excited to have her here. So Raquel, thank you so much for coming on. And how it's very nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Rob, for having me. I really appreciate it. This is very exciting for me because, believe it or not, this is my first YouTube interview. So you get to be the first one to interview
Oh,
me.
oh, awesome.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very excited. So, yeah, the first book, All That Is, I wrote 2 years ago, I believe. And then the second one I published last year. So yeah, these two books are just beautiful, beautiful stories, coming to me from interdimensional beings. The first one is a group of three beings, three interdimensional beings. One is an Arcturian, one is a Palladian, and the other is from the 12th dimension. And so they pretty much came to me with their stories of creation and their very personal stories and how they came together as a group. They call themselves the Collective of Three. Um, and so, yeah, they came to me with their individual stories and their current mission on the Earth plane as it relates to, I guess, the larger story, which is in alignment with the Galactic Federation and freeing the beings trapped on the Earth plane at the moment and guiding them through the ascension process. Um, and so it's just a beautiful story about the creation of I guess life in all universes. It goes through that initial story, and then it goes on to talk about their individual lives and their I guess their stories from different parts of the universe, essentially, and how they live their lives and how they've come together as a collective to talk about their different experiences and help us through this time, which is an important time in our history and our individual lives as we move forward and progress to the fifth dimension and beyond. And
Well,
so, yeah.
I was gonna say, what was your spiritual awakening? Like, what? How did you start learning about all this stuff? And what made you? I mean, was there a point that like changed your life that made you like interested in these topics, or did you? I mean, did you always have like contact with beings, or were you always psychic, or did you have alien encounters as a child, or anything that kind of, or did you have a spiritual awakening, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Things.
Yeah, it was a combination of a lot of things, I would say. I wasn't I wasn't part of, I wouldn't say the like the religious sort of a religious person, right? I was sort of forced into it, if you will. But I never really had a an intimate feeling towards any sort of religion. I was always searching, my mom was Catholic, my dad was Protestant, and when I was around 14 years old, they split up, and so my mom baptized us in the as a Catholic, and so I sort of went through the motion of going through your first Holy Communion and all of that, but I never really felt connected in any way. I knew that there was something larger than me, but at that young age, I never really um, found sort of a gravity towards anything. So yeah, I went through the motions, but throughout my adult life till about, I would say, 26 or 27, I was always searching, searching for that feeling or that knowing that I knew that there was something bigger than me out there. Um, and then I went off to live as a yogi on Salt Spring Island. This was in 2018. And I would say that would be the turning point for me, and when I had this true awakening. Like, I've always practiced yoga and meditation throughout my life until that point, but I was there as a retreat, but then I ended up staying to manage the center, the yoga center, for about 2 years. And it was during that time that I had this profound experience. It was with the dark energies, but it awakened me to these energies that were beyond me and beyond my understanding. And so, long story short, I was rescued by the light and by Yeshua from these dark energies. And they sort of guided me to find myself and to find my center and help me, release these energies that were terrorizing me essentially through the night. And so I was essentially thrown into the deep end, right? Because
Yeah.
first of all, at that time, I didn't fully understand, the concept of a Draco or a tall white, or, I mean, yes, you see movies and things like that, but I didn't understand the energetic background to all of these beings. And so, yeah, I went through a profound experience of separating all of those energies and trying to understand them. And then I finally understood the connection between myself and my higher self and how all of that works,
That's
aligning to the higher dimensions and essentially to Source Creator.
wow. And then you had a point where these beings came to you, and that they wanted you, I guess, to channel this book, I guess, or how did that work?
Yeah. So after my connection with Yeshua, there was a period of, I would say, 2 years where we had this, and it was very strange for me because I had never really talked to any of these beings, so I had to find a way to, first of all, figure out if this was true, right? And so I went through that process of, like, personally putting, my trust into these beings, essentially, because I started from nowhere. And so I was a big skeptic, and I had a lot of battles within myself and within, with these beings, like, prove yourself to me, like, how do I trust you? That sort of thing, right? And so anyway, this went on for about 2 years until I came to a point where I was completely in in the knowing that this was true in my being. And so, and then I was at the same time being healed and by these beings, by Yeshua and his, I would say, group of beings that came with him. And so they then introduced me to my soul family. And so one of these beings that wrote the book with me from the 12th dimension is my soul family. And so after that introduction was made, then the Palladian and the Arcturian came to me as a group, and then they formed this alliance with me. And then they started sharing their stories, and it all sort of came together, as an agreement between the four of us to write this book, because there was just so much information, and the stories were just too beautiful to not be told. And so we came up with a plan, and this was during COVID, so it was kind of a downtime for everybody, right? So I had the time to write it, and so I did. Yeah, I spent about a good 3 to 4 months writing the book and then editing it. I did everything on my own.
That's fascinating. Yeah,
Yeah, I designed the covers. I did everything on my own. So, if there are any mistakes or anything, it's all up to me, and I take full responsibility for it. But yeah, but it was a beautiful journey.
no, I mean their books are written beautifully. You know what I mean? I haven't been able to read all of them because there's a lot here. I mean, there's like the first book is 400 over 500 pages. Oh, or no, almost 500 pages. Like that's just this book, you know. And then to tell us about the journal too. You've included a journal as well. Like
Yes.
I
So
find
once the book was completed, I went a step further, and I documented my process of connecting to my higher self and how that all came about, and I felt that, and I was told many stories about, the disconnection of beings on the earth plane as a result of galactic wars and things like that. And so essentially our energies are separated from the higher dimensions because of the wars. It's like as if you sliced, the earth away from the rest of the galaxy, right? And so our connection to the higher realms and to our individual higher selves got severed during that time. And so right now we are at a point in our ascension, basically, to realign and reconnect to those energies. And so once I got my higher self completely aligned with, with my energy, I had to sort of go back to all of my past lives and correct all of the garbage, essentially, that was collected through the years and through the many lifetimes, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I created a course that was in conjunction with these teachings from All That Is and the higher self. And so when you do the course, you can sort of go through the book and journal your progress through the book and through the course with that journal. So I thought it would be a good idea to have a journal along with the book, and that was the reason for me to create the journal.
That's amazing. One thing I wanted to kind of backstep on was that you said that you talked about your upbringing, and then that you went and you became a yogi for a while.
Hmm. Hmm.
Something I have a guy named Josh Reichman on. He wrote a book called the I can't remember what it's the 12 dimensions, something about accessing the 12 dimensions, and like he spent a lot of time meditating as well. And it seems
Hmm.
like people who spend a lot of time meditating are able to tap into this other realm, you could say, or they're more able to access the other dimensions easier. Like, do you
Right.
feel that was one of the things that enabled you to bring this information forward?
I would say so because to me it's like meeting them halfway, right? Because the third dimension, unfortunately, um, during this time of the invasion, I suppose, by the Draco and the other aliens that teamed up with them, which was the beings from Orion, they essentially brought the Earth from a third dimension energy, sorry, from a fifth dimensional energy into a third dimensional energy. So the vibration of the Earth was brought down to such an extent that we couldn't connect with these higher dimensional beings anymore. When we were a fifth dimensional Earth, we were able to connect with anybody in the universe with our own individual energy. But once that severing happened, we were disconnected from the rest of the universe.
Yeah.
And so when you meditate, you go into that highway in a way, right? You tune back into that fifth dimensional energy, and so you're able to connect more easily to these beings. And so yeah, it definitely makes it easier. I find for me personally, when you meditate, there's that clarity and that centering that you get when you quiet your mind, and all of the disturbance around you is essentially removed from your energy. And then once you gain that center, then you're able to concentrate on the pureness of that energy that's coming through from the higher realms.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. And do you feel like it's enabled you to like have higher psychic abilities as well?
It's certainly improved over the years. I'm still a work in progress, like all of us,
Yeah.
I have certainly seen a huge difference in my abilities to, especially my gnosis. Like my connection with these beings is that I can hear them in a way that not like when somebody's speaking to me, but it's an intuitive sort of hearing, right?
Yeah.
So they speak to you that way. um and so yeah, but what's improved for me is just the gnosis part of it. Like, I'll know instantly that I'm not supposed to do this, or I'm supposed to do that. It just comes instinctively now for me, and that I feel has improved over the last few years. So yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's cool. And then the third book, well, you have the book, then the journal, then the book about Jesus, or what who we would call Yeshua ben Yosef. So,
Yeah. So that one is The Voice of an Angel. And so this I would say is more like um a personal account, I would say, of what this being's life has been like. And when I say life, it's hard for us to describe a light being's life, so to speak, right? Because they're born as a light being, and then you have many experiences, and one of those experiences was his incarnation on the earth plane as Jesus Christ, right? So
yeah.
he was born as a light being, and he's known in the divine realm or in the higher realms as Yeshua ben Joseph, right? And so Yeshua, but after his incarnation, he's now called Yeshua ben Joseph, right? So it's almost like a title has been added to his name after his incarnation, right?
Yeah.
So he was born as a light being known as Yeshua, and then he had all of these experiences which are in the book, and how he came about, going through. It's like an initiation, right? You go through stages, even, or you could compare it as being a child on the earth, right? You go through the stages of growth, and then you become an adult, and then you go through life, and then you gain all of this experience, right? So it's similar to that, except that you have access to the entire cosmos, right? To have your experience. And so he talks about his life as a starseed or as a light worker, and how he became initiated into taking on roles and missions and coming to Earth, even before he was incarnated as Jesus, right? They did like test runs, if you will, um, as light beings. So they come as a group of light workers, and um, you know figure out how to work with energy, basically, energy within the fifth dimension, and all the different layers of energy, right?
I
And
love.
so, yeah, the book goes through his life as a light worker, and then it goes through the incarnation as Jesus upon the earth, and his challenges, and all of that, um, right up to the time when he was essentially crucified in such a traumatic way. And yes, it is traumatic, and that trauma is still within his energy field. And so he's still trying to release that trauma, even now, as a light being that has progressed and moved on from this incarnation.
Do
And
you,
so he talks about. Go
oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say, do you feel like that he felt like he was the son of God, or do you feel like he was the son of God, or do you feel like he was just a light being here to change the world for a greater purpose?
He had a mission. His I would say the title, the Son of God, is something that was granted to him by the Almighty, or all that is, or whatever you want to call that energy of the Creator. Um, but he was here for a mission, and that was basically to show people how easy it is to connect to God, and to the Creator, and have that pure connection. Because when he descended right into that lifetime, he came here at a very difficult time where the Romans were ruling, and essentially the earth was already in the grip of the Draco invasion. And so they didn't like it, right? Once they realized what was happening. And so he had to figure out a way of still, instilling his message of love and peace on the earth, with all of this happening at the same time. And so, yeah, there was that conflict that he had to, work through. And he had his beloved Mary Magdalene by his side, and his Mother Mary, who, along with the other disciples and a group of people that, came to understand his true mission, all, gathered together to work with him, and try to give everybody that came to listen to him that pure message that he was trying to tell them about.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, sorry.
and so, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, do you feel like Mary Magdalene could have been his partner?
She is, and she still is. And
Yeah,
so yeah, that goes that he goes into a lot of details about the book. Yeah, she was essentially his his beloved, his they it's like two halves of a soul essentially, right?
yeah,
And so their incarnation on earth, like they didn't essentially know each other before they came to earth. They met on earth as two souls, but Mother Mary knew of their role um, from a higher level, if you will, right? And so she knew that these two beings were meant to meet on the earth plane and go beyond that mission that they were supposed to do on the earth plane. And so, yeah, so once they completed their lives on the earth plane, they then went on to do, other things and other missions from the divine realm, which is where they reside at this point in time. And they talk about their missions with children, saving souls on the earth plane right now, working with people, beings like the ones that I've been in contact with, and all that is. And yeah, working with the Galactic Federation in certain ways, in certain missions. So there's a whole lot of things that we are not essentially aware of that's happening on these higher dimensions, right? And so um, it's interesting that he wished to tell his story to me, and this was truly an honor for me to be the person that he wanted to tell the story to, so that it could be shared with everybody else. So there's a lot of truth about um, their relationship and how it developed on the earth plane and how it is now in the higher planes, and how they come together and work together on missions. There is a lot of there are some stories about their present missions and how they carry out those missions. So yeah, it's interesting to read the book and get that perspective.
I love that. And then, do you want to talk a little bit more about? I don't want you to give too much of the book away, but like going back to the first book, do you want to talk about a little bit more of who the Collective of Three is and what their
Okay.
mission is for Earth?
Yeah, so the collective of three is essentially a being from the Pleiades, and they don't essentially like to be given names or labels. So, and one is from Arcturus, and the other is from the 12th dimension. So, the being from the 12th dimension is directly connected, as I said earlier, with my soul family. And so these beings were directly involved in um, the separation, if you will, from when the early wars took place. And so those early days, they had to flee from the earth plane and find refuge. Um, and they did that on Saturn for a period of time. And so there is a story about that in the book and how that progressed, going through that period of time when they were driven from the earth. So essentially, they came to the earth plane to help people again, to connect to their higher selves and to connect to all that is. And basically, in this, in my mind and in history, I would connect it to the early. I guess they call them the rishis in India, right? They landed um, on the Himalayas, and then they came down and descended into the plains, and then they taught about yoga and meditation and all of that, right? And if you go back to the Mahabharata, which is the law and the holy books from ancient India, they talk about these beings. And so this is part of that story, and that's sort of my lineage, if you will, my soul lineage. And so one of these beings is part of that larger story. Who landed in the north of India, and they were teaching the locals about meditation and yoga. And so um, when the Draco attacks happened, they were forced to leave, and some of them got left behind. And so these beings were then taken off to Orion and captured in Orion. And yeah, there's a lot of things that I haven't talked about in the book. It'll probably be another book where I will go into detail about all of that. But yeah, essentially they were captured, and so that severing took place. And so this being that's talking about its experience in the first book is the one that got away and ended up living for a while on Saturn with the rest of the beings that they were able to take with them as refugees. And
Yeah.
so,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was gonna say I wanted to bring up the Hindu culture. I don't know if you saw this the other day. I got to have a guy on my show. His name is Vish
okay,
Chatterjee, and
no, I haven't.
he just wrote a book called it's called Decoding Astrology, and he's a Vedic astrologer, and he's
Okay,
but we were talking about the rich tradition of like the Hindu, you know, and it seems like they were in touch with beings, you know, or they knew a lot more than you know than other cultures for whatever reason. It seems
yeah,
like they knew about meditation and you know like the deeper understandings of life for whatever reason, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. But see, a lot of that, Rob, like everything else, has gotten tainted, right? Even in India, like a lot of the religion, the Hindu religion, basically that is, I would say, remnants of that tradition and that the what those beings brought to the earth plane. They don't want to be worshipped. They don't want to be idolized. And the same goes for Yeshua and Mary and all the others. They don't want to have people kneel and pray to them. They are just like you and me. They're just on a different mission.
Yeah,
um and so that was the first thing that they instilled in me, and that eliminated a lot of my resistance, because I was totally resistant to this sort of hierarchy that you have in Christianity or even in Hinduism, right? It's like, you bow and you pray and you plead for things when you need certain things, and that's just not the way that things are, right? And so they told me very straight. They said, "This is not the way that we would like to be perceived. We are just like you and everybody else on the earth plane. It's just that you have forgotten how to connect to the higher energies and how to live as multidimensional beings, essentially." And so, yeah, and so if you go back to India, yes, there was a purity in that initial message, but like everything else, it has gotten tainted and inverted. And so what remains now is a very dark, um, perverted, I would say, perverted energy of what the original message was.
yeah, yeah. That's interesting. So do you feel like that's the ETs? That's what the ETs are here for, is to change like humanity or help us ascend to the I mean, like, do you? Okay, so the question is, do you think we're ascending on our own to the fifth dimension, or are we ascending with the help of the ETs, or how is that working? Do you think?
Well, it's an individual experience, but like I said, we've been severed from the larger energy of the universe. So if this planet was ascending on its own, and how I would say before, like, just imagine if nothing had happened, like the Draco invasion hadn't happened, and we were ascending as a planet and as beings on the Earth plane, then we wouldn't have all of these energies coming to assist us.
Yeah,
The reason why they're here is because we've been disconnected from those energies that we once were, which would have given us the ability and the gnosis um, of the ascension process and what we needed in order for us to ascend to the higher dimensions. But we don't have that information. We don't have that knowledge, and so these beings are here to guide us and give us the knowledge and the information that is required for us to move forward and to bridge that gap, essentially, to move on and to ascend to that higher dimension.
yeah. I love that. I love that. What was let me ask you this: is there anything else you'd like to cover before we finish up? Like anything you feel like it'd be important to share, or you know, whatever you think. You kind of have the floor. Whatever you'd like to cover.
Um, I think we've done a pretty good job of it. Yeah, I don't know if have you been able to post a link to my website? I suppose your readers or your viewers could go to the website and have a look around on
I
my
will
website.
post a link after we're done here. Like if you give me
Okay,
the links you want to post, like because Zoom doesn't let me schedule beforehand, so it's like
okay,
I have to fill it in after it, but I can do that right after. Just send me all the links you want to promote. Like you can tell people too now, like how they can get the books and stuff too.
right. So
They,
yeah, my website is www.progressingtothefifth.com. And so if you go there, you'll see links to my personal one-on-one sessions. So I have healing sessions. I offer healing sessions, which gives you the ability to heal and connect to your higher self energy. And I also offer one-on-one with the ascended masters that I've been working with. And the ones that I've got advertised right now are Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, the Collective of Three. I have Hathor of Egypt and Horus of Egypt. So all of these beings are essentially connected with my energy, and I can bring those energies in during a healing session. And so they can connect with your energy and give you any sort of messages at the during the time of the session, offer you any healing that is necessary for your personal path and your mission on the earth plane at this time. And then there's a page dedicated to my books, which takes you straight to Amazon. So both of these books are also linked on the website. And then there's a link to the blog, which I try to keep as updated as possible. So I try to do a blog at least once a month. And again, it talks about many of the subjects that come up. Sometimes they are, subjects pertinent to what's happening in the world, or it's just a little, a little bit of a subject that's good to understand in order for you to progress on this path, right?
yeah.
And then I have another link called Journal Prompts, a page where you can go and buy all of the essentially the journals that I've published. So there's also one for The Voice of an Angel, and then I have a Starseed journal. And what else is in there? And on the shop page, I've just put a bunch of my artwork as well. So if you look behind me, there's a few things that you might see. So I like to paint in my free time. And so there's a few links to my artwork as well, which is available for sale on my website. So yeah, I'd like to offer I guess your viewers, if they can, I'll probably send you an email. They can probably get a discount, a 10% discount on either the courses that I offer or on the sessions, the one-on-one session.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah. So, and then I'll wait to plug everything in until you send me the email, and then I'll put
Sure.
everything in the description whenever as soon as you send me that. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Raquel. It was really nice meeting you.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you too, and I'm so glad to have finally done this. I know we put it off quite a few times, but yeah, I'm happy to have finally done this, and I really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, and have a good night. Take
You
care.
too. Okay. Bye bye.